Right from the start, I knew that there was one person there not like the others, and that was Uvaldo.
He's just a little Tex-Mexican jumping bean, had incredible vertical, and he was so dynamic on the court. And I think his spirit lifted everyone. So when he was on the court, he always tried to better the ball, you know, make the best pass he could, make the best hit he could, make the best block he could. So that just jumped out. You just saw that right away.
He was very competitive. As fun as he was, what people really didn't see was how competitive he really was. And he hated to lose at everything and anything. To the point that every time that we lost, he would cry after the matches.
Uvaldo, of course, when he came in '86, fit right into the program and took it to the next level, I would say, as far as being able to play as an all-around player. The women's volleyball team had just been formed, and because of the rules for the NAIA, which we were a member of in those days, we had to have 5 men's teams before the basketball team or any team could go to the playoffs. And we only had 4 teams at that particular time. I think they were basketball and baseball and wrestling and track and field, or I think it was track and field. It could have been cross country. But anyhow, those were the ones that were available. And Hap, having been in the Navy and having played volleyball on the aircraft carriers that he was on, said, well, why don't we start up a men's volleyball team? It would be within our budget to go ahead and do that. And basically, I got together with Kevin, who became the women's coach that year, and we worked things out so that we could use a lot of the equipment that they were using. We used the men's JV basketball uniforms and sweats, and Hap gave us 3 volleyballs and gave me $150, and that's what we started with.
Uvaldo's impact with the Mason men's volleyball team was immediate. First of all, coming off that summer where he was with the USA junior national team, he had gained some experience that none of the other players on the team had. But as far as athleticism, he again brought a level there that we hadn't seen in our gym for a while. He brought a skill set. He was an excellent passer and an excellent attacker. But the thing that was interesting, I think, is the fact that he didn't play any formal volleyball prior to that summer with the junior national team. So he came in and was eager to learn, learn systems, things like that. And what he did is he showed that he could execute just about anything we asked him to do. And he provided a real example for the rest of the guys on the team who are maybe more experienced collegiately. But they saw a guy coming in who instantly was one of the best players, if not the best player in the gym. And his willingness to be coached and to listen and try whatever it was that we were asking him to do had a big impact on the rest of the players.
It was either 87 or 88 when we started off the season in the fall. I actually thought it would be a good idea to put Uvaldo in as a setter. And that proved to be not the best idea because we needed him as a hitter and as a defensive player. But we managed for a couple of months, and Uvaldo was always such a good guy. He tried his best, and it just wasn't the way it was supposed to be.
The thing about him, Uvaldo was a funky person, you know, because he was, God blessed him with such a great physical ability. He was the most fit person that I have played volleyball with. Him and probably Moyo Kasim was in that same category, that they were really physically gifted. Uvaldo hated to do weights. We'd go to the weight room and he would putz around because he just wasn't into that kind of thing. But you put him on the volleyball court and it was a totally different thing. He would really want to beat you no matter what. I remember, I don't know whether it was a match or it was in practice, he hurt his shoulder, you know, his hitting shoulder, right? And he still wanted to play. He says, no, that's fine, I can play. And so he goes, he gets set, and all of a sudden he starts hitting left-handed. And we were like, we had never seen him hit left-handed ever before. And we're like, did we just see that? What just happened there? And it wasn't just a little pantsy hit either. It was like he hit left-handed like he was a left-handed hitter. And we were like, holy crap, what happened? Well, come to find out that he was the only boy in his family, and he had sisters. And I think that's how he basically got to play volleyball, because his sisters got him into it. But obviously he was too strong with his, you know, right hand, so he learned how to hit a volleyball left-handed so that he could play with his sisters without hurting them, you know?
In 1988, actually Wayne Stolick had become the head coach. He came back after his sabbatical and led the team to the Eastern Championship that year. But that was kind of the culmination for Uvaldo in his career. When he came in '85, he obviously made an impact, but what happened was that it also became even more attractive to other recruits, that there was a national team level player basically playing at George Mason University. So when we went out and we recruited, it attracted some other talented players as well. And again, that came to culminate in that 1988 championship. And we probably weren't the favored team that year, as Penn State had been ranked #1 during that season in the country.
Through my years at Mason, there were 2 matches that were like the longest matches ever. I think that was one of them. To be honest with you, we were not supposed to win. That's all there is to it. And so we knew that the odds were set against us, because we had played Penn State 2 or 3 times earlier in the year, and they had Chris Chase, who was their stud middle hitter. You couldn't block him. He hit over everybody. You would just go up, and he still hit over you and put the ball inside the 3-meter line. So we knew we were going to have a very, very hard time winning that day.
And Chris Chase sprained his ankle the night before in the semifinal match.
You know, we started out really badly. So I have no idea what happened that day. All I know is that whatever volleyball God is out there kind of thought that we deserved something better. And the gods blessed Uvaldo to help us bring us back from the brink of defeat.
I can't believe the gym wasn't sold out, but it wasn't. I mean, it was maybe 2/3, 3/4 full, but the crowd was just electrifying.
Go to Acosta at the gun. George Mason wins and will go to Fort Wayne, Indiana. They win match.
Off to the Final Four.
George Mason beats Penn State.
George Mason wins the match. They're on their way to Fort Wayne, Indiana.
UV had he was so charming. That's his picture in the dictionary next to charming. And he could talk you out of anything. And you did want to help him because he was broke. He was always broke. But later in his career, when he was trying out for the national team, I'm sure he still owes people money. When he was staying in San Diego, I know Coach Stolick bought him his plane ticket to go try out, and he wasn't coming back. He couldn't afford to come back. The roommate he had, I don't know if the house didn't have central, I guess it did have central heating, but he would never turn it on. And I went and visited him in February, and it was cold at night. And for some reason, this house didn't have a regular washer and dryer. There was no dryer, but there was this old-fashioned wringer washer. And UV was responsible, all the players were responsible for washing their own practice clothes and bringing, and wearing them the next day for practice. So UV would rinse out his clothes in this wringer washer and wring them dry, and then he would lay them on a chair next to the stove, and he'd have the stove open and crank the heat up to like 600 degrees to dry his uniform overnight. That's what he went through to be on the national team. Bill Neville loved Uvaldo, and UV would tell him they would have a drill where coaches would throw the ball to the opposite end of the gym, and the players would go after it, trying to touch it desperately, do a dive, get a pancake, whatever. UV would tell Neville to throw that ball farther and farther, and each time he would still touch it. 30, 40 feet away, he would run down that ball and still touch it. It was incredible.
I remember talking to him about coming to coach at Mason, and this was on the heels of his experience with, was it the 1990 Goodwill Games, where he played against Russia, and again, as a player, had a phenomenal tournament. And some of the competition there just elevated him to being not only one of the best passers and defenders, but he really had an outstanding tournament as an attacker too. But for him, he wanted to give back, and that was, again, another aspect of Uvaldo. He realized what it meant to go to school here at Mason and the impact that he had, that he wanted to also give back and coach guys and get that team to a level where he was used to playing. was going up to Maryland to do a volleyball clinic, and I was sitting in a restaurant kind of thinking about the guys and the team, and thinking they're out in Hawaii, and wishing that they're hoping that they did well that night. And so I thought about that at dinner, went to practice or that clinic, and then when I got home that night, I had a phone call about the accident on the beach. And obviously I was stunned. The volleyball community was stunned. George Mason was stunned. And there was just immediately a couple of pieces that just didn't make sense. Uvaldo wasn't shy about telling people he wasn't a water person. And unfortunately, being out there, he got into a situation that was rather dangerous for him and a number of other players, and as well as some of our other staff. There were some rescue efforts, and some people obviously got pulled out, but Uvaldo didn't. Uvaldo's legacy at George Mason, I think, will live on for quite a while. Again, he came at a time where we had achieved some excellence, and we had made it to a couple of Final Four tournaments. But him coming to Mason and him playing validated that level, and automatically it put us on par in recruiting aspects with UCLA's and Ohio States and Penn States of the world, who had really well-established relationships. But the piece that he gave us, I think, was a validation of a high-level person, a high-level player, and he went on to coach, and the contacts that he made around the world, both as a player and a coach, again, helped expand George Mason's reputation.
That's just how he was. He was just a great person, great competitor, probably the best volleyball player I've ever been blessed to play with. Pretty much the best volleyball player. No offense to Rick Lucas. I mean, they're probably those are the two best volleyball players I've ever to play in the program. I was happy that I played with both of them.
Now, no one could believe he could jump so high and hit around blocks as well as he did, but as we found out, just as important was his digging ability and his ability to find out where the spikes were going to go. So I think his defense was just as critical as his offensive move.
One of the unique pieces of my relationship with Uvaldo is that some people, I think, credit me with giving him the nickname UV. And I did that summer in Colorado. And the day of the funeral, I was in Texas, El Paso, with a number of the guys on the team, and it was a long day. So we were up probably 6 in the morning getting dressed for the funeral, and I was in a suit and tie, and that started at 6 a.m. and we went to the funeral, went from there straight with the guys to the airport, and it was probably after midnight before I got back home to Ruston, Virginia. So I sat down on my bed at the end of that long day, and I took off my socks and shoes, and there was a little black spot on my foot, which was a little bit odd. And when I looked down on my foot, there was a little sticker that said UV, ultraviolet protection. And I couldn't figure out how that spot got on my shoe because I'd been dressed since 6 a.m. in the morning. But I realized that was UV in his final prank to me to just let me know that he was still around.
Players now from George Mason, Uvaldo, Acosta. First of all, congratulations on the victory. Down 2-0 to Penn State. I don't know how hard you hit that ball, Uvaldo, but when I saw it going over the net a few times, I wouldn't want to get in front of it. How did you feel that you could turn it around? I mean, what did you say to each other when it was the third game?
Well, what we did is that we've been down with this team, you know, and the last time we played real good was at Ball State, and we had one of our starting centers get hurt that game. But we knew, basically deep inside, that we knew we can beat this team. You know, we knew we can beat them. It's just, it had to come down for, you know, giving 110% instead of just 100. And that's what we did tonight. We really got, you know, gave that 110%.
Well, we know you gave 110%. Right now we have a replay of you, Uvaldo. We want to show right here just exactly how you do give 100%. I thought you were going to hurt yourself. At first I thought you were going to run into the table. But the point is you kept that point going, and that's what you got to do when you're playing a team down 2-0. Any preference going into the Final Four?
Going into the Final Four, I think we'll do real well now that we gone over the point that we beat Penn State. Now we can say we can beat and we can play with those other teams, and that's what we basically wanted to prove, you know.
Do you feel that you're playing well as a team right now? What I saw tonight, it looks like you've got a nice unit and everybody's contributing.
Yeah.
I thought Grunwald had an excellent game tonight. I thought Mike Swope really played the nets well and did some blocks. And of course, your hits of at least 100 miles an hour or plus, and the way you had the ability to dink it over when you saw that you had the shot work really well in the 4th and 5th game.
Yeah, I just think that basically we had so much adrenaline going that we were too scared to like really just dink the ball, basically. I think what we were going in, we just let's hit, let's overpower these guys, because it's a team that doesn't give up.
All right, we're going to let you go. We're going to get an award. Good luck in the Final
Thank you very
Four.
much.
Do your best.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so Uvaldo Acosta, an excellent job that he did here. They're going through the trophies right now.